Welcome back to Tap Tempo with me, Matt Lange. I've got a new EP coming out on Friday, and it's called Diversions. It's really centered around the middle track called Diverted, and we have basically an extended intro and outro, and it is all seamless and together. It makes up one long piece called Diversions, but it is split up into 3. Also, this Saturday, I'm playing at Exchange here in LA with Jody Wisternoff and Grum. So if you're in the LA area or anywhere in SoCal, you can find me there. This week on the show, I have Aruna. After initially writing one of the first Hannah Montana and Miley Cyrus tracks, Aruna broke out into the trance scene as one of its most esteemed vocalists around the late 2000s. Kind of did that thing for a number of years and then broke out into her own DJ career on the side. Then after that, she went through some pretty heavy life changes, and we're going to go into that a lot, and now has found a new path making drum and bass and self-producing everything herself, hence self-producing. So here's Aruna. How's your cat?
My cat?
Yeah.
He's a little brat, but he's very sweet when he wants to be, and he's learning what Mama likes and is okay with, and what Mama does not like and is not okay with. So he's not attacking me on my yoga mat anymore.
Okay.
He's not attacking me when I'm meditating anymore. So those 2 times, I don't have to use the spray bottle anymore. He just knows not to bother me. But he still starts messing with me at 6 in the morning and bites my feet and bites my hands, and sometimes he'll come up and knead underneath my neck and purr, which is really, really sweet. I love when he does that. Yeah. And he's learned how hard to bite and not to bite. Like, I don't have any cuts recently, so that's a good sign.
Oh, I had a really good one. Oh, there it is.
I was shredded for the first month I had him.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I perpetually do. Well, they wake me up every morning at 5 in the morning.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
They're like kids. Like
That's how I know that when I have kids one day, I'll be prepared. Except they'll just be more poop and less scratches.
Oh, my goodness.
And ideally, there will be 2 people to handle the duty.
Yeah, literally.
Literally the duty.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think they are a noble learning experience.
Dings?
Yes.
They're wonderful. Yeah, like I would go mental without my guy because, you and I both are home alone a lot.
Yeah.
So, I talk to him, and sometimes it's like, it's so nice to just, even if he's not like a human.
Well, it's just being responsible for something greater than yourself.
Well, just having, someone to take care of and love. And
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having a companion.
Yeah, exactly.
Except they don't ask anything of you except food.
Feed, yeah.
It's the perfect relationship.
Well, and my guy wants to play a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why you should get 2.
That's what you were saying. I don't know what that.
It changes everything.
I'm sure it does, but for the better, I don't know. It's like a lot of work.
It's not. It's actually less work.
That's a lot of stuff to clean, though.
You clean it at the same time.
Oh, that's true.
So you scoop one more time. That's about it. You buy twice as much food, which is like $1.
Yeah.
And
twice as much vet bills, though. That can be a lot.
Yeah. Ooh. But other than that...
I just don't know if he'd like it, you know what I mean? Like, I can't figure out yet if he wants to rule the roost or be a little submissive.
Well, that all depends on his cat partner.
That's true.
He might get a submissive one.
Did I tell you I started working at Best Friends?
No.
So I am the first ever in-house Reiki practitioner.
On cats?
On cats at Best Friends Animal Shelter. And I went last month for the first time to do it. And I worked they have 3 main rooms. One is they're in cages, and then 2 are free roam rooms. Mm-hmm. And there was one kitty in one of the free roam rooms that was really sweet. And I usually, when you do Reiki on animals, you don't do it right on them. You do it from a little away. And if they want it, they come, because they can't speak and say, yes, I would like this. So you don't want to like impose it on them. So, but this one in one of the free roam rooms, I was doing it, and I sort of was sitting there, and I had the engine going, so to speak, and my hands were just buzzing. I heard this noise, and it was like this purring, and it was loud. And I looked, and it was this little kitty. Well, he's not little, he's big. Behind one of the big scratch trees that they have, just purring. Like, I haven't heard a cat purr like that without being touched. It was really interesting. And his name was Bowie. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, aren't you the sweetest thing? So I started petting him, and then just this week I saw in the newsletter that he got adopted out. I was happy that he's going to a good home because he's been there about a month.
But you were totally bummed out.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
But they have, I mean, he was definitely my favorite of the ones that I interacted with that day, but yeah.
Right. How long have you been doing it for?
Well, that was my first time.
Okay.
I was actually going to go on Easter, but the slot filled, which I was really surprised. Like, no one's going to want to come and volunteer on Easter at
Do you have to start competing with other... I'm sorry, how do you pronounce Reiki? Is that...
No, there's no one else there that does Reiki.
Okay.
But they have... Because the rooms are kind of small,
yeah,
they only want like 2 people in there at a time.
Got it.
Like, most people, what they do for socialization shifts is they go and they play with the animals.
And you're just the nut job who goes in there and wants to do, like, spiritual voodoo on their cats. Like, do the owners know what they're signing up for when they get you?
Of course. They want to interview me for the website.
Oh, okay. They're nutty, too.
Well, they want, they want to give the cats... I mean, because it's a very stressful environment for them. Mm-hmm. Like, they're...
Sure.
In the wild, cats are... predators, but they're also prey.
Yeah.
And in that shelter, their predator is, you can hear them constantly. All the time.
Like the dogs?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they hear that, and there's just, there's like people coming in and out, and so it's just, and they're alone a lot, so it's a hard environment for them to be in, and Reiki has been shown to really like reduce stress for these animals, and also like to help them with physical like pain issues and a lot of benefits. So anything I can do to like, I got certified many years ago when my own cat got sick.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was one of those things. I did it and I sort of forgot about it.
Yeah.
And like, I even could have been working on myself for a lot of things, and I just totally forgot about it. And then I've had some experiences when I was meditating lately where my hands would start buzzing. And I'm like, okay, well, this is interesting. So it's like, it's sort of starting itself again, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it sort of reminded me, I don't know where I got this whole idea, to be honest. I just know that I wanted to do it. So I asked them if they were interested, and they were really responsive. So
Right.
Yeah.
Where are they?
They are up in like some Mission Hills.
Oh, they're out there in the valley.
Yeah, they're in the valley.
Okay. Uh-huh. Huh. Years ago, when you were getting like the tingling thing in your hands.
Oh, the bad tingling. Yeah.
Yeah, this is different than...
Oh, this is way different.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in a different... Well, that was like in kind of more in the fingers.
Yeah.
This is in the palms, and it feels wonderful. It's like...
Like you're holding Dragon Ball Z.
What?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
No.
It just feels like energy. Like I can start to feel it now, actually. Like just... it's warm and it's wonderful. And yeah, it's totally different. It's like the good witch stuff.
Good witch, not the bad witch.
Not the bad witch stuff.
Right. Did you ever... Because years ago when you were going through that, was it psychosomatic?
Yeah.
Completely?
Completely.
Isn't it amazing?
It is amazing.
Like, you can be convinced of anything.
I mean, I ended up in the emergency room. Yeah. It was no joke. I could not walk. Like, and I asked my doctor about it, and he said, you would not believe what I've seen. Yeah. I've seen people come in here like this with their arm frozen to their chest, couldn't move their arm, convinced they had a stroke.
Right.
Stress.
Yeah.
It's, and science now is only just beginning to sort of, corroborate all this, the mind-body connection and how powerful it is.
Totally. Actually, I want to touch on that because, like, that is definitely, you've gone through this rather large transformation. Yeah. In the past few years.
Sort of like the deeper into hell you go, the
more of a party it is?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't know what kind of hell you've been in, honey. I want to go to that one instead.
No, you don't.
Holy cow. No, it's like a ring of fire, and it's like the deeper into that you go, the more you almost get purified if you suffer consciously and come out the other side.
Yeah.
With a really authentic desire to grow into your own compassion and vulnerability.
Or if you don't, you just perish.
I don't know if you perish. Or you mean as you're going through it?
Well, you have a choice. You're going through these rings of hell. You have two choices at the end of that. You either choose to change, you choose to grow, or you choose to envelop yourself in the flame.
That's a very dramatic metaphor. I'm not sure what that would look like in real life.
Well, metaphorically, if you're self-medicating, you just choose the medication over change.
Got it. Yeah, that could be one way that some people might go, and a lot of people go, and I certainly can understand what would drive them to do that. That is, it's effective in a short-term kind of way, but there's not really much joy at the end of that.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
But it's just the devil you know.
Yeah, no, I never felt compelled to go there.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, and I think my therapist said there's something in me that not wants to live. I forget how he said it. It was really like right on. There's some will to health, and this just natural drive that I have towards the light, towards health, towards healing, wholeness. I don't know, that would prevent me. Like, okay, even when I was a teenager and all my friends were doing drugs, I was doing drugs, but it never hooked me.
What kind of drugs?
Obviously pot and booze.
Yeah.
I got pretty into some of the like psychedelic type stuff, like mescaline.
Really?
Yeah. That was my drug of choice.
That's an interesting choice for a drug of choice.
Why?
Mescaline just isn't really on anyone's hit list usually.
It somehow found its way to me, and I had some insanely just mind-blowing nights on that stuff.
Huh.
And I ended up with a whole bag of it.
Really?
And I hope my parents don't listen to this. I kept it in a little heart-shaped candle tin hidden in the freezer. And I was doing that stuff every weekend.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Going to Limelight. I don't know. I can't remember how the hell we were getting in there.
You were a mescaline junkie.
Oh, I wouldn't call myself a junkie. I never got addicted to it. That was my point. So
you can't get addicted to it.
Well, I don't know. But so, there was Coke around me.
Yeah.
I think I might have tried it once, but I think I was so scared that I didn't even... Same with crack. Like, people were doing crack. I got offered, and I tried it, but I was so scared because this was like in the height of the crack. Oh, God, I'm dating myself.
Was what, 80s? Late 80s?
90s.
Early 90s?
Yeah. And there were all those PSAs on TV about crack and how, that was like the opioids of that.
I'll never forget, not Evan Rachel, who was the girl from She's All That? The one who bashes the eggs in the frying pan and says, this is your brain on drugs. Do you remember that?
I remember the commercial.
Oh, and that girl was so pretty. I can't remember who it was, but I just remember she's in She's All That with Freddie Prinze Jr. I'm dating myself here. Yes, I watched a chick flick when I was 12.
Okay. Probably for different reasons than I would, but...
Inevitably.
Anyway, so, yeah, no, I never got hooked on any of the real hard stuff, but my friends, some of them did.
Yeah.
Not heroin. No one was into that.
Yeah.
Thank God. And opioids weren't really a thing back then.
Right.
It was really Coke and... and I did this thing a couple times called diesel dust. Have you heard of that?
No, never.
Supposedly it's tea leaves dipped in embalming fluid.
Oh, sure. Well, angel dust is embalming fluid.
Really?
Yeah.
It's powder though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's angel dust, if I remember correctly. I never did it. So this is going off of memory from 18 years ago. Angel dust is a powder that is... it somehow comes from embalming fluid.
The reaction's totally different though. Like people go bananas on that stuff.
Perhaps.
Like they get really, like I remember seeing PCP, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like it would be, some guy would be on PCP and they'd need like 4 cops to hold him down because the strength is just superhuman. When I would smoke this diesel dust, whatever the hell it was, I would just get really like zoned out.
Huh.
It was probably pot laced with something. I
bet that's what it was because, diesel and dust. I mean, I remember hearing stories about definitely friends who had their joints laced with PCP.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah, well, that's probably what you had.
Oh, good. Well, at least I'm alive, and I think I survived. My brain feels mostly
like
intact.
Sour diesel plus angel dust equals
maybe
diesel
that's
dust.
Why my memory's so bad.
Probably.
But anyway, the point of all that was none of that crap ever hooked me. And, in large part, I really credit music for that.
Yeah.
Part of me is just, I wanted to live. I wanted to keep growing at the time, I was full-on piano player.
Right.
I wanted to be able to practice like 7 hours a day or whatever the hell I was doing back then. So I didn't want to, I was like, if I go to rehab, I won't be able to practice. But, some of my friends ended up there. Some of them ended up in jail. It's like, it's kind of sad. But, but no, I always had a really strong compass that no matter whatever crazy rebellious shit I would try, I never got too far sucked into
you had this guide.
Yeah.
Yeah. This tractor beam.
Sure.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
So when you were going through all the hand stuff, what do you think was that like a midlife crisis catalyst, or
should we go into because probably a lot of people listening aren't going to know what you're talking about. Hand stuff.
Well, okay,
that actually sounds really bad.
All right. Well, yeah. So let's just backtrack. So 4 years ago, you started getting this tingling sensation in your hands.
Well, the way it started was, I remember I was at this, and I thought a lot about the way it started, and I think actually the way it started and when it started and the circumstances under which it started were significant.
Yeah.
It started actually on Valentine's Day of 2014 in San Francisco.
Yeah.
At a show that I was headlining. A lot of the shows that I played was like, what do they call that? Co-headlining?
Yeah.
This one was just me.
Right.
And I remember about 5 minutes before I was about to go on stage, I started getting kind of winded, which, you get sometimes with nerves, whatever.
Yeah, anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But usually 5 minutes after you start playing, that's gone.
Yeah.
And you're going. This one did not go away. My whole set, I kept having to be like I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
And I had to sing that particular show, and I was like, how am I going to get through a vocal set? I can't breathe. And somehow I did it. But then I remember after the show, I was in my hotel room with my friend Karina, just really quiet, just the two of us laying on the bed. We weren't drinking, nothing. And I still had that thing. And she was like, well, there was a lot of smoke in there, so maybe it was that. And I was like, I don't think there was any smoke in there, girl. It's California. I just, when something's off. Mm-hmm. And so that's how it started.
Right.
And then that was a Friday. And then 2 days later, I woke up with my thumb and my forefinger on my left hand numb. And I was like, thought I slept on it weird. And, 6-7 hours later, it wasn't going away. I'm like, okay, something's not right. And then over the course of that week, I started having more and more problems with that. The tingling sort of went away, but then my whole thumb and wrist area started getting really weak, and then it sort of spread into my left hand. Mm-hmm. And by the end of that week, I was so weak in my wrists and hands that I couldn't even use a computer. And so that was my fate from February, until May, when the whole thing exploded. Mm-hmm. And during those, whatever it was, 2.5 months, which, by the way, felt like a freaking eternity.
Sure. When
you can't even use a computer.
Right.
And the only way I was able to interact with anyone was from voice to text. That feature saved my life.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't use a phone away with the thumbs.
Yeah, sure.
So I was tapping no one could see me, but it's hard to explain, but I couldn't use my thumbs.
Right.
So, and I certainly couldn't tap with enough velocity to text anyone. So yeah, voice to text was amazing for that. So while I was going through this 2.5 months of trying to figure out what the hell was wrong with me, it was just doctor after doctor after doctor after doctor. And it was so bizarre because every single I saw 10 doctors in that time. I'm not exaggerating, 10. And every test I did, everything came up spotless clean.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'm glad I don't have rheumatoid arthritis. I'm glad I don't have carpal tunnel. I'm glad I don't have an infectious disease. I'm glad I don't have some cervical, what do they call that? Like a pinched nerve in my cervical.
Sure.
I'm glad I don't have thoracic outlet syndrome. But what the fuck is wrong with me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was starting to drive me crazy.
Sure.
And then, so I went ultimately to this hoity-toity hand doctor in Beverly Hills, and they couldn't figure it out either. And so they just sent me to a hand therapist for unspecified pain and weakness in both my hands. And now, mind you, this by now had, like, I was starting to have, it started becoming severe. I was starting to have swelling. And so much so that they would put me on steroids.
Yeah.
So I went through that, a course of steroids. And then I'll tell you, though, you know what actually helped? The only thing that helped during that 2.5 months was pot.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like, I would smoke and the pain and the swelling would just go away. I mean, it was a temporary thing.
Yeah.
But...
Well, it's probably because you weren't thinking about it then.
You know what? Wow. You could be right. That's interesting. I didn't even think about that. But I know there's CBD is an anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
So it
But let's not forget, I mean, ultimately this was completely psychosomatic. So...
Well,
you were
true, although stress can cause...
Right. But you were creating these things within yourself. So you also create your own antidote.
That's interesting. Well, anyway, so just for the sake of people who have not heard this story,
yeah.
When I was in hand therapy, I was just frustrated because nothing was really working ultimately.
Yeah.
And I said, this is just, this is the most bizarre thing. Like, what is this? What could possibly cause this? And the MS diagnosis was positive. Like, as you know, to this level of weakness, because mind you, it wasn't just a computer. Like, I couldn't cook. I could barely brush my teeth. I could barely brush my hair.
I remember you walked to my old apartment once and you could barely walk through the hall.
What?
Yeah.
No.
It was like, Rena was there too. And I remember like you were walking so slow.
Oh, well, that was during the week.
Okay.
Yeah, that we'll get to that.
Okay.
But this was when it was still just in my hands.
Okay.
No, I remember this was like one of the moments I remember. I was at the gym and I went to, I think it was actually when I went to see the doctor in Beverly Hills. They had a location of my gym there. And this particular gym had like one of those parking things where you take the ticket and you validate it.
Yeah.
I couldn't even take the ticket out of the machine.
Really?
That's how weak. You know, you use your thumb and your forefinger and you pull it out. I had no grip strength, like zero. And I asked the guy to take behind the desk if he could pull it out for me. And I started crying at that because I was just like, oh my God, this is like a low. Yeah. You know? So when the MS, interestingly, and this kind of goes back to, you know, at the time, given the circumstances, maybe I could have decided or chosen to believe that I was psychosomaticizing this. But when you have things, actual real sensations in your body, it's really hard to think that you're like making that up.
Right.
I went and I was, you know, of course I got curious. So I wanted to see what else, like, I didn't know anything about MS and I wanted to see how it manifests.
Yeah.
And of course it said weakness, but so basically as soon as I started looking into MS, I started having dizziness. My legs got faint. I could barely stand up. Like my whole body just fell apart.
Right.
Now it's no longer just my hands. It's everything.
Because you convinced yourself you have MS.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I did. I must have. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so at that point, that was, I think, May 1st. From May 1st to May 8th was the worst hell of my life. It was just 8 days of panic. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My vision was blurry half the time. I was having shooting pains down my arms. My legs were shaking. I can't even remember half the shit that was going on. It was just, I had no peace.
Yeah.
Like, I just thinking about being in a wheelchair and like, not it was terrifying. It was, you know, and you know, I've been in therapy, of course, ever since. And we've talked about it a lot. And, you know, one of the things that my therapist said that probably frightened me so much is I'm somebody who, and I guess I've always been this way, I'm somebody who, despite my willingness to be vulnerable with regards to some things, I have a really hard time, like, depending on other people.
I could see that.
Yeah. And, you know, having a disease like that would basically force you to depend on it.
Now you're completely dependent.
And that, I think, is what scared the living daylights out of me. And so I remember waiting, my neurologist, you know, when I saw her and I told her my symptoms, she was concerned, which of course only made me more afraid. Scheduled a brain MRI immediately. And waiting for the results of that felt like years. It was only a couple days. But I remember when she called me and she told me that there were no plaques, no tumors, everything was negative. It was like this 15-second release. I was just crying and I was so grateful. And then 15 minutes later, it was like...
Then what the fuck is wrong with me?
Exactly. Like, do I have some weird neurological disease that hasn't been... So I went back to my primary doctor and I told him what happened. And I think they took like 7 vials of blood out of me and tested me for every possible thing you could think of. Things I had never even heard of. Yeah. Just as one last... and as this was going on... there was one morning, it was Sunday morning, I remember, and I stayed the night with my friend Steve, and you remember this because you were there. Like, it was really hard for me to be alone, especially at night. I think I even stayed with you once.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And, because the nights were the worst. And, I woke up in Steve's place and I was like, I feel really wrong. Like, something is really wrong with me. I have to go to the hospital. So I went to ER at Cedars-Sinai, and they thought I was dehydrated. They couldn't find anything, of course, and I'd already done a bunch of the tests. I told them everything I did. They said that I appear to be orthostatic, which has to do with your blood pressure.
Okay.
Because I was having these big swings. Interestingly, in my blood pressure, they take your blood pressure when you're standing and when you're sitting.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be sort of the same, but I was having like these big swings from, you know, standing to sitting, and this has to do with the volume of your blood or something. Not normal, but they discharged me. They couldn't really help. Right. And then 4 days later, I ended up back there because same thing. I came home and I just I was just out at my patio, and I walked in the door and I was having that same thing. Like, something's really wrong with me. I should call somebody. So I called 911, and they came. And I told them that I'd been to the hospital and that they told me about that orthostatic thing. And they did that same test. They checked my blood pressure standing and sitting. And as soon as they did that, they said, get your shoes, get your bag. We're going right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Because it was another big swing.
Yeah.
So, you know, yes, it was in my head, but shit was going on. You know what I mean? There was something going on that was like detectable on some level. So they got me in the ambulance and they get fluids. And when we got to the hospital, we went to Burbank this time. I was laying in the bed. I told, again, it was a doctor's assistant. It wasn't even a doctor. And I told her all the tests I'd done and all the results. And she said to me, and she was the first one that ever posited this, she said, do you want a Xanax? And I said, actually, can I get a prescription? She said, yes. So they gave me one, and I was too weak to go anywhere to fill it. And so that was a night that I it was another night, like the 7th night in a row of waking at 2 a.m. after 3 hours sleep, like shaking. And I called my parents and I said, I can't do this by myself. I need you guys. And they came out on like 24 hours notice.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that's right, because I was with you when they picked me up.
Yeah, that's right.
And so they took me to my cousin's house, and we stayed there, and we filled that prescription, and the next day, 80% of my symptoms were gone.
Yep.
It blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being so weak, like, different kind of weakness, though.
Yeah.
Like exhausted week because
Yeah.
my body had just been pumping cortisol from.
Totally.
It was basically an 8-day long panic attack.
Yeah.
On and off, usually more on than off. But you know, they were able to cook for me, so I was able to eat. That helped. Mm-hmm. It's hard to have any strength if you're not eating. And you know, it took some time to get the med cocktail right. I was doing much better on the Xanax. I was taking 4 a day, but I still couldn't sleep, really. I know.
Jesus.
Yeah, so that's when they put me on Klonopin. And that was the first night I was finally able to sleep.
Really?
Of course, I was a complete zombie the next day.
Yeah.
But it was so nice to just... I given the choice, God, it was like a joy to be a zombie.
Right.
After what I had just been through. So... we, you know, over time, we sort of worked it down to a point where I could function. But, and then, you know, I started getting better. And I started talk therapy, and that was June, or May, actually. Yeah, May.
2015 at this point?
2014.
2014 still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, yeah, totally 2014.
Yeah, and I remember, like, I had a tour in Australia coming up in June, and I already had to cancel a show in... Texas.
Excuse me. Yep.
And I was so scared I was going to lose that tour, but I was able to do it. Like, and I was really proud of myself that I was able to go do something like that. I was still having issues with my hands, I remember.
Yeah.
I needed help with suitcases and stuff, like that kind of thing. But I could use a computer.
Progress.
Yeah.
Yeah. When did all the symptoms go away?
Well, it took a while because, you know, it takes like a month for the SSRI to kick in.
Yeah. Which one did they put you on?
Lexapro.
Lexapro.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, you know, other than 30 pounds I gained, has been great.
Yeah.
I really like it. It's and, you know, my therapist was telling me that, not just Lexapro, but all SSRIs, they actually changed they cause new neural pathways to develop in your brain.
Yeah.
So that even when you stop taking them, you still, it's not just like a temporary thing. It sort of, I don't want to say fixes your brain, but it makes it easier for you to feel happy feelings.
Right.
Even after you stop taking it. So I used to really poo-poo those drugs, and I totally have a new...
Yeah. You know what? I made fun of them until I took them. And then I took Celexa for 3 years between the ages of 23 and 26.
And it might be true that they are overprescribed. I don't know. But, you know, certainly if you're...
Well, they are, because they prescribe them for anything.
Okay. But if you're in a situation where you're ending up in the hospital, it's obvious that you need something. And
yes.
Talk therapy is great, but it's just slow, you know.
Yeah.
It's way too slow. And mine was like a 911 situation, so...
Right. Well, I mean, that's why they typically prescribe the two things together.
Right.
And in that setting, it definitely can be very effective for the right situation.
I was thinking, like, Jesus, what did they do in the 60s before they had, you know, things like Xanax? People would just lose their freaking minds.
Yeah.
We're so lucky.
Yeah, I just think they had a different vocabulary for it back then. It wasn't anxiety, you were just nutty.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were just crazy. That's all it was.
There's things about now that I don't like, but there's a lot that I do. And I think there's a lot we take for granted, too.
I think also anxiety is a lot more common.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Aside from, you know, just the internet and everything, just social pressure in general.
Comparison, despair.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that causes a lot more anxiety than we ever saw previously in any generation.
Absolutely.
And that's a biased statement because I live in this generation.
Yeah, but you and I are sort of on the cusp.
Yeah.
It was different when we were kids. We'd have, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but there would be stress.
Sure.
But it was different.
Yeah, but I think also it's the difference of just being older. Like,
Yeah,
stress as a kid, you can ultimately just yell, Mom, Dad, help me, and they fix it.
Yeah,
you know?
that's true. But, like school pressure, now you can look back and kind of be like, yeah, what's the worst that can happen? You get an F. But when you're in it, it's like your world.
It's the world, but it's not like the existential dread you get now.
I know. It's true.
Or it's like, if I get an F, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
It's like, no, now you're actually going to die. I didn't have a fear of mortality then. I do now.
Well, there's very few things that we encounter in adult life that carry a risk of death, other than getting in a car.
Right. I got hit by a bus in October.
What?
Yeah. An LA County city bus.
In your car, I hope.
In my car. Yeah, they tore the front of it off.
Is this the red?
No, it's the BMW.
Is it okay?
They fixed it in like 2 weeks, but the city is still trying to sue me.
Sue you? Was it your fault?
Yeah, for their legal fees now.
Oh my God.
It's their fault.
What a mess.
Yeah, and my insurance is fighting them, so it's just a nightmare.
And you're okay?
I'm A-okay.
Okay.
And I had a witness in the car, thank God. But, yeah, a city bus just tried to take me out as I was parallel parking.
Where was this?
Echo Park.
Man.
Sunset. We were going to Mohawk Bend.
Wow.
You ever been there?
Where?
Mohawk Bend.
Never even heard of it.
Great. You'd really like it. Most of the menu is vegan or vegetarian.
Ooh.
I love it because they have one of the best beer menus in LA, but they make a very good burger as well.
I see.
But yeah, it's right on Sunset and like
You
Alvarado.
and your burgers and beer.
Yeah. I'm a man. No, I just like that, you know?
I know you do.
Hey, I'm drinking wine tonight.
I know. So am I.
Barely.
Yeah, I'm milking it.
Yeah, it's all right. I find I usually, day to day, I'm a wine guy.
Day to day, I'm a sparkling water girl.
Okay.
And tea. I drink a shitload of tea.
Really?
Yeah. Green tea, peppermint tea, jasmine tea.
Do you ever make your own?
No.
Like ginger or anything like that?
Oh, yeah, that I do. Like
Okay.
ginger, lemon, honey, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And apple cider vinegar lately.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Tanya got me into that one. Yeah, I remember that. Huh. All right, so let's fast forward. Post, recovery steps, all that. Musically, you make a big shift.
Well, the big shift came later. But it's potentially related. So basically what happened was, so from 2000, let's just say 2011 when I started DJing.
Yeah.
Till about 2014. I was touring, I wouldn't say a lot, but consistently.
Yeah.
Once or twice a month.
Okay. You were going far, too.
Yeah, I was going to Asia a lot. For some reason, they liked me over there. I think I went to Indonesia like 5 times.
Yeah, which is, because in my mind, you're always like, yeah, she's on the road a lot.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because it would come, it was not like 1 or 2 a month. It would be like 4 and then none or 1. It always came in like that.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're going to go to Australia or Asia, ideally you want to have like 3
line them up. Yeah, sure.
So because I had, you know, I signed with Assured in 2013, and they were great. I really liked working with them.
That's Enhanced's booking agency. Okay.
And then I was also getting gigs from my previous agent. There was a time when I was actually working with both of them.
Right.
She was booking me as a singer, and they were booking me as a DJ. And then on top of that, I was touring with Mayan and Shane.
Right.
So their agent, Ronnie, was getting me stuff.
Right.
So, yeah, I was going around a decent amount. And then in 2015, it was like a faucet shut off. It was just like tumbleweeds. It was like nothing. Zero. Like literally zero. And, you know, even surprisingly, somehow, during all this crap that was going on in 2014, I actually did do a couple. What did I do? It was in April. I went to Kuala Lumpur and I think Indonesia. And I had something in Estonia around that time. And then I had the Australia tour in June. And then I had like DC and the Texas thing I did have to cancel. So 2014 was a fairly busy year for touring, but 2015 was literally 0 gigs the entire year. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I disappeared for 6 months, and it's like I lost.
Crickets, yeah.
Yeah. So 2016 rolls around, and it's like kind of more of the same, and it's like, okay. But then I start talking to people, and I'm finding out that it's not just me. Like, something happened around 2015 or 2016, like where the supply of talent hit some sort of critical mass and just outpaced the demand so much that just a lot of artists I know stopped getting booked.
Oh, I'm going to call that marshmallow.
What?
Around the time that kind of stuff hit.
Well, it was EDM.
Right.
It was like the peak EDM. Well, it was like 2014 was, I think, when EDM really peaked. In 2015, it kind of started going down.
Yeah.
And that was like when Diplo and Lean On came up.
What I'm talking about, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. So that started changing things too. And I think people were just getting burnt out on EDM. God knows I was. But I think a lot of the promoters started changing over. Like they stopped. Like I know Fresh, who here in LA, they booked me for a few events. They stopped booking trance.
Yeah.
And they're booking like hardstyle and something else.
Okay.
So I think that was part of what happened. And then a lot of the guys that were booking trance were like fans, you know, and they stopped doing it. And it just, the whole thing shifted all at once. And, you know, in hindsight, I saw that it wasn't just me, so I didn't feel quite so bad. Right. But having said that, I was starting to get the sense that something had to change. And on top of all of that, I was just starting to get, because I had my radio show, The Hot List, and so I was constantly checking promos. And I was really starting to get bored of the fact that all the songs I was checking, same form, same sounds, same tempo, same chords. It's like, what is going on here? This genre has to evolve. And like, even my own songs, I was like, I get to a point where I can't even listen to my own songs. I'm just bored. I'm like, I don't know. I started realizing that I just can't, and the other thing too is I was starting to get more and more into producing. Maybe because I was just getting bored singing, writing, and I felt like it was like law of diminishing returns. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, and that too. I mean, meanwhile, the way you were doing it before, producers were like essentially giving you a backing track, and you'd write to that. So while you have the homogenization of all this dance music happening at the same time, yeah, you literally are getting the same song over and over. So how could you not be bored? Right.
Well, actually, around that time, like 2015, is when I started contributing more and more to the actual track. Like when I wrote The End, which was about everything I went through in 2014, that was by far the most collaborative effort I had done in terms of the track. I did that with Husman. The whole verse I produced myself, basically. And I was like, I got a real ring out of that. I was like, wow, this is really cool. To be able to contribute so much, you know what I mean, to the sound of the track, not just a voice and some words. Not that I'm in any way belittling
I understand.
Singers' contributions, but a track is so multidimensional, you know.
Yeah, it's nice to have more.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I kind of got addicted. And so as I moved forward from that, I started producing more and more. I started co-producing some of the remixes that I was doing. So I was getting the bug. And but I was like, okay, I am starting to feel like I want to go full bore into producing. But I can't do it with trance. I can't make myself, because producing is a lot of freaking work, at least for me. Like, I'm slow. I'm way slower than most people, I'm sure. But
well, you also started producing in quotations, producing recently.
Well, I started producing dance music recently.
Right.
I was producing like electroacoustic music and film stuff. Like I got my degree in that. So
I mean, in the modern age.
What?
In the modern age.
In the modern age, as opposed to the Stone Age, banging on rocks.
Yeah, because I mean that's what you did at Berkeley. You just banged rocks.
Well, I did take 2 semesters of West African drumming, so.
Well, then you actually did bang rocks. But you understand what I mean.
Yes.
The way technology grows,
yes.
especially over the course of 15, 20 years.
Oh, God, date me, why don't you?
No. You wouldn't date me if I wanted to. But ha. No, I know. See, that's where I make a bad joke. But the fact of the matter is, no, I mean, you can't hold yourself responsible for that.
There was a lot that I had to relearn. Yeah. I will say that. Absolutely. But the great thing is the fundamentals are the same. Yeah. You know, I could look at a synth and pretty much know what was going on because, you know, you learn. It's basically all the same. So, but yeah, rules of dance music, I didn't know anything about any of that. So, and that's when I started studying with Sevens guys. Yeah. So he kind of taught me.
I remember.
Yeah. He taught me a lot, actually, about all that stuff.
How to make a hardstyle kick.
Well, I wasn't making hardstyle kicks.
I'm just taking a dig at him.
Oh, don't dig at him. He's sweet. And he's brilliant. So, and he taught me a lot. So I do credit him a lot. It was really great to be able to work one-on-one with somebody who is as knowledgeable as he is.
Yeah.
And I highly recommend if anyone is able to do that, which actually you can do that through things like little aside plug here, the Pure Mind mentorship program, which now I'm a part of.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, where you can work one-on-one with a mentor who will coach you on a variety, you know, whatever you want, whether it's specific software or DAW or, you know, arranging or, you know, songwriting or...
DAW the Bounty Hunter? Never mind.
Okay. So you have, you know, resources like that available to you, not to mention, of course, tutorials and all that stuff, which have been great. I've learned so much from those. Yeah. But anyway, so, yeah, I knew that I was not going to be able to produce trance.
Right.
I just didn't have it in me. I didn't even have it in me to write more trance, like much less spend months producing. So now, meanwhile, I woke up this one day and I had this song in my head and it was fast. And like so many ideas come to me when I wake up. And that's such a great sound.
It really is. It's Perrier. No, Pellegrino. Excuse me.
It's better. So this was one of them. And I got up and I wrote it. I recorded it. And I revisited it later. And I was like, this is really good. I have to do something with this. Like, this needs to get out into the world. What are you waiting for? This is catchy.
Yeah.
And what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? And it was just really, it felt like it arrived at my doorstep fully formed.
Got it.
And when I have that feeling about something, I was like, it feels like a gift. It feels like, you know. And that was the first time I said, you know what, I want to take this thing and I'm going to do this myself. And that ended up becoming my first. It originally was a solo production, ready to go, and I
I remember that one. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I specifically decided not to do the vocals myself. Partly because I didn't want to confuse people, but partly because I just didn't like the way my voice sounded on it. I wanted to get either a black girl or a guy. Someone with a little more richness to their tone. So,
and also maybe you just wanted also just to be the role of purely the producer for once.
Yeah, oh, there was definitely that.
Yeah.
So I finished it and I sent it to Monster Cat, who I had just been dealing with for my track that I did with Fiji Ouija, Time to Say Goodbye.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't my track, it was technically his track, but I vocaled that one. And
you vocaled it. Is that the technical term?
I guess. It's just quicker than I did vocals on it.
I sung on this. I wrote it.
Well,
I vocaled it.
Can I just make up my own vernacular? Is that I don't know.
No.
Isn't that what people do anymore?
They do.
Anyway.
That's why we're putting a stop to it.
Well, and now there's this really cool trend of turning adjectives into nouns.
Or nouns into verbs.
And that.
Yeah.
Yes. Like,
sure.
I remember I did this first, damn it. I wrote a song that hasn't come out. I actually wrote it with, believe it or not, Darren Tate. It's not a trance song. It was a pop song. We wrote it for, what's that, Eurovision thing?
I don't know.
That big Eurovision song contest. It's huge. It ended up not getting picked, but there was a line in there that I said, I got a pocket full of happy that I'm happy to share with you. And
that's cute.
I was like, it was a really cute song. It's called Candyland.
That also sounds slightly perverted.
Really?
Depends how you look at it.
I guess. I don't know. It wasn't. It was a very. There was an innocence to that song. It was very sweet. So there's really nothing perverted about it.
You see where my brain goes. I've got a pocket full of happy that I want to share with you. Yeah. Your
brain would go there no matter what. My God. I mean, let's not even talk about what's on your wall.
That's like the creepiest laugh ever.
Mine or yours?
Mine.
Yeah. So, and then I saw, like, was it Health Magazine? Their slogan is "Happy Lives Here." So, anyway, the language is constantly evolving. So, yes, I'm going to say vocals. So, shush. Now I don't remember what the hell I was talking about. So,
you're writing the song with Darren Tate, Happy, Happy,
no,
Happy.
No, this was before that.
Okay.
Monster Cat.
Yes.
So, I was already in touch with them, so I sent them this track, and I sent it to one of the girls there, Tabitha, and I said, have you signed any female producers? She's like, no. She's like, do you know any? I was like, actually, I do. And so I sent her the track. She's like, this is really good. And so she sent it to John, the head of music there, and he really liked it. And, I was waiting for feedback for a long time, and he finally comes back to me, and he's like, this is great, but something is just not sitting, and I can't put my finger on what it is. And so they passed. I was like, shit. I was busted because I was so close, with such a great label. So I walked away from it for a couple months, and then I was just thinking about it one day, and I was like, I gotta do something with that song. I gotta finish it. I gotta get it out somehow. I gotta fix it. And so I played it for an engineer friend of mine, and I said, they don't like this. There's something wrong with it. I don't know what it is, but I think it might be the drums and the mix. What do you think? I played it for him. He said, it's the drums and the mix. So I had been in touch with Ramses B.
Oh, right.
Yeah. What were we talking about? I can't remember what we were. Oh, I hit him up to remix something of mine. That's what it was. And so I hit him up and I said, hey, this needs, it's pretty much done, but it needs new drums and a new mix. Are you on board? And he said, yeah. So I sent him the stems without the drums. I think I sent him some of the drums, but like little fill things, nothing. So he totally redid the drums. He actually ended up changing a lot, to his credit, I will say. He changed the whole arrangement. Like, there was originally drums in the verse. He totally took that out and made the verse like the build and had the drums come at the, what are you waiting for? Right there. And at first I was like, whoa, I was shocked when I heard it. I was like, where's the drums in the verse?
This isn't my song.
I miss it. You miss it when you're used to it,
Sure. Demoitis.
But then once I realized where he was going with it, I was like, oh, this is great. The builds were like, and the mix was really good. So I sent it back to John and I explained what I had done. And, I brought Ramses on board and what do you think now? And it was green light. So that was technically my first drum and bass release.
Okay.
I do think, and by judging by a lot of the SoundCloud and YouTube comments, and I can't fault people for this, I understand why he got a lot of credit for that song, for the production of it.
Sure. Well, they wouldn't have ever expected that from you.
Right.
And
so, I get it.
Natural cynicism everyone has. She can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I got both of those things.
Yeah.
And, part of me was really pissed and annoyed. but then part of me completely expected it.
Right.
So anyway, he and I ended up doing another track together. Same thing. We remixed "Time to Say Goodbye."
Okay.
That one, he was actually more involved. I started that one, came up with the chords, a lot of the strings, most of the melodic and harmonic things I did because that's kind of my strength.
Yeah. Sure.
And I sort of kicked it over to him, and he did these. He really fleshed it out and did these amazing vocal chops, and like I loved what he did with that one. Of course, he did most of the drums. So those were my 2 drum and bass releases, both on Monster Cat. Ready to Go hit number 1 on SoundCloud, drum and bass, and the remix hit number 2. So they were pretty well received.
Yeah, I guess so.
And that to me, and I got an interview in UKF, meet the trance artist who's converting to drum and bass, or I forget. And an interview in DJ Mag.
Right.
In 10 years doing trance, I had never gotten an interview with DJ Mag.
Right.
Not that that's like the be all end all, but it was a sign to me. It was like I'm on the right path. Mm-hmm. And I was, not to mention, I was sort of slowly falling in love with that genre because I was just so burnt out on trance.
Yeah.
And, with the liquid drum and bass stuff, the feels are there.
Well, I mean, it's just faster trance.
Sort of.
I mean, it's trancey drum and bass.
Especially the kind that I'm doing.
Especially the kind of stuff that you like, that you send me every time. I'm like, oh, this is just fast trance.
If that's what you say about my releases, I'm not sending you shit anymore.
I'm not saying your personal music. It's like when you send me tracks that you like.
Ah, okay.
Like we had this, we were trading like that Hybrid Minds track, Lost.
The remix.
Yeah, well, I sent you the original, you sent me back the remix, and I'm like, no.
See, I didn't like the original.
And I hate the remix. The remix ruined the original.
No, the remix just brought love and life to the original.
It lost its feel.
I don't know. It lost a feel.
The feel. There's like a loneliness in the original. And that's what's so beautiful about it. I used to close out sets with that track, actually. Yeah.
Anyway, so you and I will just forever differ on some things. But we can agree to disagree. Mm-hmm. But yes, I definitely was to acknowledge and revisit what you just said. I was definitely feeling some familiar territory in the liquid drum and bass world, but completely recontextualized, new tempo, new textures, like the tempo, it's still pretty rigid, but it's just different.
It's a different feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's just more variety. There's more places you can go. There's more things you can do.
The kick doesn't have to be on every beat. Yeah. No, there's a lot more freedom in that.
And there's more space. There's more breadth. And I was really missing that in the trance stuff. Everything is just so dense,
Yeah. It's everything on top of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like listening to that music and feeling like, I can't breathe. Like, I need space. I need just
totally.
Cleanness, like just, pull some shit out and just like, So liquid really spoke to me in that way. And at a certain point I just made the decision that I'm going in this direction and people are going to react how they're going to react. And it's not like I had trans bookings rolling in. So in a way, I was really stressed about it at the time. But I think as a person of faith, I think that was actually a gift from God. It was kind of closing one door so that I would be more willing to walk through the one I was supposed to walk through.
I want to ask you about that. Because I've known you for, 7 years now.
Really? That long?
Yeah, because I've lived here for 6, and I used to stay with you for the year before I moved out here,
That's
you know?
Right.
So, you're always kind of Jewy, but there was...
I almost made me spit my water. Oh my God.
Well, see, that's how we know you're Jewy. But no, I say that with love. I grew up in New York,
It sounds like chewy. You have to find another word.
No, I love that sound. The name...
Chewy.
Chewy.
Wow.
But, but you kind of went the other way in the past, what is it, year?
It's more than that.
2 years. Was this part of the whole rebirth?
Yes.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, that was a lot of what got me through those years of uncertainty.
Yeah.
in 2015 and 2016 when I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, and actually Joel Osteen was the doorway for me.
Oh, why him?
You know, I just loved his message. He was sort of like a Tony Robbins, but a religious one.
I just want to punch him in the dick.
Why?
I just think he's a twat.
Have you ever heard one of his messages?
Yes. I just think they're contrived.
It's not for you.
It's not for me.
It's fine. It really spoke to me. It was exactly what I needed to hear when I needed to hear it.
Right.
And I'm naturally very skeptical and cynical too. That's my default. Mm-hmm. And so when I first started listening to him, and he would talk about how, he would make these declarations and, talk about how God has, a great life for you and your what's ahead for you is better than what's come, and a lot of hope and faith that, my naturally cynical brain would just go nuts, like bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, and I remember, I will never forget this moment. It's like I almost turned to it like I was talking to somebody in my car. And I was like, you know what? We did the cynical pessimist thing for my whole life. We're going to try something else now. Like that got me where it got me, and it's cool. It's, I've done all right. I want to just try this other thing. Let's just try this optimistic thing and just see, like an experiment. It was like a social experiment. I was like, I want to see what life is like. Thank you. Living with this faith-filled, positive, hopeful mindset instead of this freaking negative Nancy, pissy, missy, constantly poo-pooing everything just to not be disappointed. And it's so much better. Like, I can't even tell you. Like, I'm just happier.
That's good.
And I never feel completely alone anymore. And I never feel... I could go on and on. But, yeah, having a relationship with God has totally changed. It's changed me from the inside out. I mean, it's like...
How do you define God?
Before we get to that, like the work that I was telling you about with Best Friends, that came from that. Like, when you love God, you want to live your life in a way that honors Him, and the thing that makes Him the most happy is serving and helping
others.
Acts
of service.
Yeah. And that's always been really hard for me because I'm typically somewhat of a narcissist. But that's really pulled me out of that in a lot of respects. When you give or serve, you're not really supposed to talk about it. You're supposed to be between you and God. Otherwise your ego can get in, But, so I won't go into specifics, but let's just...
No, it's interesting.
Let's just say that, I've been finding myself doing random things like bringing cookies to the firemen that I would normally never do.
And you do that because of God?
Yeah.
Why not just do that because you want to do that?
It wouldn't occur to me. It's not like God is making me or something.
No. It's like He's the reminder. She's the reminder. It is the... Spiritual goo is the reminder.
Spiritual goo. You have such a way of putting things. No, it's just... I don't know. You want to be your best you,
Yeah, I agree with that.
And part of that is getting out of your own life.
Yeah, totally. Get out of your own way.
And I think when you think you have to do everything yourself, you're too panicked and desperate to do that. At least that was my experience.
I think what you found in the idea of God, I probably found between the Stoics and the existentialists.
Okay.
Similar idea. Different.
I didn't study philosophy, so...
Different catalyst. Similar end goal.
Really?
Yeah. Well, the way you describe it, where you're pulling yourself out of your own way, you're realizing you are not the center of it all.
Yeah, the first message I heard when I started going to church, I love this. He said, you are the means, not the end. And it's so funny because I was already there.
What do you define as the end?
Like, basically, it's not about you. Like,
I know. I'm going deeper into it. What is the end?
Like, you're the purpose of your life, basically.
I know.
Like, you're being used. You're not, it's not, the end goal is not like about what you get. It's more about...
Well, it's the journey, not the destination.
Well, it's about you being used to serve something greater than yourself.
Sure. Do you feel like you weren't doing that already?
Do I feel like I was not... No.
Because by your nature as an artist, you're reaching millions of people.
Yes, but it's not about what you do. It's about how you do it and what's underneath it and what's motivating it.
Sure.
And I think a lot of what's so gross about EDM has to do with so many producers and DJs that are doing it from a place of trying to get rather than trying to give.
Oh, no. I mean, that whole industry is all ego.
Totally.
100%.
So when you can really bring a desire to serve and give to your music, it infuses it with a different quality than when you're using it to, yes, it's a vehicle of self-expression and there can be beauty and emotion and people will be touched and all that stuff. But it's, I don't know. It's like, it's a different, it just feels different.
That's fair. So how do you define God?
Wow. Now we're starting to get into it, aren't we?
Well, I'm really curious. Like, what does that mean to you? Is it a guy in a cloud? Is it, a spiritual energy? Like, what is...
I mean, I'm reluctant to call myself Christian. I don't like labels. I don't subscribe to everything Christians subscribe to. I don't believe in... Well... You
shouldn't subscribe to everything that anyone says.
Right.
In general.
Well, certainly... It's good for people to question everything, but I mean, I don't believe in heaven and hell as a place you go after you die. I believe it's kind of right here, right now, depending on your mental state.
Yeah.
And whether you choose to view yourself as separate from others or connected to others. I don't believe in this God that like judges and condemns and guilts and like, a lot. It's hard because I'm kind of conflicted. And that's, one of the reasons I joined this Bible study group is that there's a lot that's in the Bible that I'm just like, I'm sorry, this does not sound like the loving God that...
Well, you don't like Old Testament God.
Honestly, I haven't even read enough of the Bible to be able to...
Because Old Testament God is angry God.
Yeah, that's not the God I know. So if there's an angry God, I mean, you have to also consider that the Bible was written by humans.
Right.
And, it's very possible, even likely, that what got channeled or written was tainted, if you wanted.
Well, of course, it's a massive fucking game of telephone.
Right. So, a lot of what's in the Bible to me sounds like people projecting their own shit onto God when we are made in his image and we are supposed to, it says in the Bible, be ye like gods. Like we are meant to be like him.
So why are you referencing the Bible when just 30 seconds ago you negated the Bible?
Because there's parts in it that are beautiful.
Sure.
That's why I'm conflicted, and that's why I joined this group, because I want to be like, okay, well, what about this? And what about this? I don't want to go in and start like, fighting with these people, but at the same time, it's like, I have questions, you know what I mean? If I'm going to come to church and, pray and all this stuff, and it's like, I just want to understand, and I want to, because I can't get behind all of it. I don't believe that the world was created, 7,000 years ago or something. I mean, but I do believe there is a God who loves us and wants the best for us and is with us all the time, and that created the universe however he did it. A lot of it was probably natural things happening, but that he controlled. I do believe he's in control of everything and everyone, and so that part of it I am on board with. At the same time, I'm very much into, the more kind of Eastern type of beliefs, I meditate every night. I do yoga 4 times a week. I've started having Kundalini awakening experiences. I'm So that really resonates with me too.
Right.
But I wouldn't call myself like Hindu or whatever. But I don't know how most traditional Christians would consider this, but I feel like those two things can live together.
Well, they're all rooted in the same.
Exactly.
Just same face, different name. Every time. And the irony is half the world, or most of the world, chooses to shoot each other over it.
Oh, this is just unbelievable. I mean, it's so... I can't think of anything more ironic.
Yeah.
It's like hate in the name of love.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Uh-huh. Our love is more important than your love.
Well, then it's not. That ain't love, honey.
Well, that's what they sell.
I know. And it really makes me mad. It infuriates me more than it used to before I started having a relationship with God, that people commit just the most heartless acts in his name.
Sure.
Like, don't give God bad PR. Like, come on.
Well, I mean, if you want to use the logic that everybody is a child of God, then therefore every action is an action of God. And if God is in control of everybody, like you just said, then therefore when any bad action happens, that theoretically could be misconstrued as an action of God. And that's why I think we also have a lot of misaligned people.
Well, he also did give us free will. So we can choose to turn from him.
Sure.
He can't make us turn back. I mean, look, I don't have all the answers, Matt.
I'm not expecting you to. This is interesting. I don't have someone who's very religious, like, talking to me on a daily basis,
okay,
or on a basis at all. So this is interesting.
Okay.
And that's why...
I mean, I'm happy to talk about what I believe, but I certainly am not going to sit here and say, like, I know everything, or I have it all figured out. You know what I mean? I'm still kind of unraveling this mystery myself.
Well, aren't we all? Religious or not?
Religious or not, yeah.
It's all a mystery.
I guess.
I don't know. The only thing I've learned is I don't know shit.
That is one of the most mature things I've ever heard you say.
Really?
Yes. Because it takes humility and, a lot of actually wisdom to get to that place. And I've never heard you say anything like that before. So, cheers to you.
Mazel tov.
You've grown up a little bit.
I know, right? Well, I've only known you for 7 years. So, take it full circle. You've got the new track coming out.
I do. And this is actually the first one that I produced completely by myself to the point of a release. And I'm really proud of that.
Yeah,
and
you should be.
Thank you. And I'm very curious to see how it's going to be received. It's on the Galaxy of Dreams 3 compilation released by Monster Cat, coming out April 23rd. And I listened through the album, and it's funny because most of the tracks are pretty aggressive. Mine is not that aggressive. Not that I had any intention to do anything aggressive. But so it kind of sticks out in that way, that it's sort of like there's other stuff on that album that I would consider liquid, but this is like ooey gooey liquid.
Well, you know what's funny? Because when I listened to it, it didn't not sound like you at all. It sounded exactly like everything you write. It was just in a different context.
Yeah.
But melodic choices were the same.
Yeah, sure.
Vocally, I mean, the only difference was now it's at 170 beats per minute, and it's a breakbeat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and, I think one of the differences between me and a lot of other producer DJs is that I started as a writer and a pianist, as a musician, basically.
Yeah.
Where I know a lot of these guys came up, especially in the drum and bass world, they came up through the clubs as DJs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not so married to a genre the way a lot of people are, because of how, as a musician, you kind of have to be more versatile.
Sure.
And I just naturally was. I mean, God, I started with singer-songwriter stuff, and then got into metal, and then now Christian music, and then trance, and then now drum and bass, and
Oh, you sung for Cynic. That's right.
And played keys.
Oh my God, I'll never get over that. That's so fucking cool.
That feels like another lifetime.
It is another lifetime.
So long ago. Yeah. those were interesting times. But so yeah, it's been a journey, and it's like whatever I do melodically, it's going to have my signature on it.
Yeah, of course.
Actually, I'm not sure if I told you this, but this is kind of weird. This is another part of the change I'm going through, and this is one of the things I love about it that I never did with trance for some reason. Even with my solo stuff, I'm going through a complete rebrand right now. Obviously, I'm doing different music, so it's par for the course. But part of what I'm doing is, this is going to sound really weird, and I don't know that anyone's ever done this, but I made an alias for myself as a singer.
Okay.
FKA.
I saw that.
Okay.
Formerly known as?
Yes, exactly. So every track with my vocal on it from now is going to be featuring FKA.
And then Aruna's your own produced.
Yes.
And like the full U tracks.
Full U tracks.
Written and produced by.
Yes. And I did that because especially after my experiences with the last 2 tracks, I knew that if I didn't do that, if I just put Aruna While We're Young, everyone is going to think that I just sang on it, maybe wrote it, and then got some like dude to produce. And I'm just...
Why can't you say man? Why do you have to say dude? That's derogatory.
You know, it is a little derogatory, but so is the idea that women can't produce.
I know.
And it really pisses me off. And
I just had to do the devil's advocate thing.
That's fine. That's just you.
I know.
So that's actually been a big driver of mine moving towards producing is, how like going back to what we were talking about earlier about how you are the means, not the end. Mm-hmm. So lately it's been less about how far can I advance my own career? How much money can I make? How much can I tour? Blah, blah, blah. Of course I want to do all that stuff.
Sure.
But what's driving me is I want to shatter I can't even talk right now. The wine's kicking in. I want to inspire women all over the world to know that they have a voice and that their voice matters. And that if they want to produce and they have music in their blood like I do, they absolutely can. And not to be intimidated, of course I was, but to not let that being intimidated stop you. Mm-hmm. And that's like, especially with the whole social context right now with the Me Too movement and Time's Up, and it just really feels like the right time for women to start getting pulled more. I mean, obviously there are women, but it's far and few between.
And I think there are more now than ever.
That might be true, but I mean, still, like if you look at any festival lineup, it's like a sausage fest. It's really silly.
Yeah, but I think that's also indicative of the ratio of men to women who are actually, at least if you're looking at the DJ circuit, the amount who exist.
Well, that's what I want to change, or at least help change, be a part of. And that's a much more inspiring purpose to me than how much money can I make. Because that is a legacy. That's a social movement. You know what I mean? And quite frankly, to be honest, the scene needs women's voices because, men, they have, obviously there's variations from guy to guy, but their minds tend to work in a similar way, just like most women's minds tend to work in a similar way. So they have their own perspective. Women have our own perspective. And I feel like this musical conversation needs women's perspective and our voices and our feelings and our emotions and our intuition and all that stuff. And especially it needs women who are not afraid to sound like women. That's one thing you see a lot is the few girls that there are, like they're trying to sound like dudes or they act like dudes. They dress like dudes. It's like, you're not a dude. And I understand why they do that because it helps them fit in and, to show everyone's going hard and you want to go hard and be cool and all that. And I was, I felt that pressure too. And I used to do, I was never certainly dressing like a dude, but I was playing harder than I maybe would have wanted to. Mm-hmm. Because I wanted to keep the floor going and all this. But my goal with this new sound is to just go to be more me than I ever have and just be really vulnerable with it and to really let people see my softer side and hear my softer side and to bring my pain and fear and my love into the music and put it on a platter and not be afraid to show people that or feel like I need to make it hard because everything's freaking hard and face melting. It's like, have we had enough of that already? Like, I'm just bored of that. It's like,
yeah, it's boring.
At least to me. I mean, I get it, you know. I think a lot of that is influenced by the whole live thing and people wanting.
It's just the festival generation.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all. Yeah.
But that's silly. It's like, I understand from a business and money perspective why people do it, but it's like putting the cart before the horse. It's
100%.
like,
yeah.
Music is supposed to be created by artists, not like created for some purpose that is then dictating how the artist is going to make it. It's totally backwards.
I agree 100%.
So it's a ballsy move on my part. I'm risking a lot, but it just, again, this is where it goes back to faith and religion. Like, you know, trust. I trust him. This is where I'm being led. I have a very strong internal compass, and I just know that I'm doing the right thing for me right now. And maybe I'll be led somewhere else at some point, and that's fine too. But this is where I am for now, and I'm really excited by it.
Fair. Good. I wonder where that's going to be in a year. Where do you want to be in a year?
Basically doing what I'm doing now, but touring. I really want to start touring again.
Yeah.
I miss that. I miss traveling. I love it so much. I want to have my nice Jan Morrell studio set up. I've already talked to him about building me a studio in my new place.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. He is like an artiste. He's the Michelangelo of studios. So have a really nice place to work and just really, work with a coach if I have to become more prolific and to get more music out there, to become better and better as a producer myself, faster and also I'd like to at some point, maybe not in a year, maybe a little more than a year, but I would like to work with pop artists.
Yeah.
As a producer.
Yeah.
Because kind of no one's done that, like females.
The only person I can think of is Imogen Heap.
Who's Taylor Swift?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just say it's very out of the ordinary.
Yeah, well, she is pretty out of the ordinary.
She's exquisite. I love her.
Yes, she is.
But yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
You ever listen to Maya Jane Coles?
Yeah. It's not for me.
Okay. Yeah.
I need melody.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. It's kind of out of my wheelhouse.
What? What are you thinking?
Female pop producers.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just...
Yeah, it's absurd. This needs to end like now. If it's not me, then it can be someone else. I don't care. But I'm throwing my hat in the ring until someone else comes along. Well, even when someone else comes along, I'm still going to have my hat in the ring. But it's like, ladies, step it up. Let's go. It's time.
They've got to choose to.
I know. I was so scared, my God. And I had so much going for me in terms of a Berkeley education and, really successful producers willing to help me. And I was still scared.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's tragic too, because I knew a lot at Berkeley, and I can only think of one person I went to school with who was a female producer who is still producing her own music.
Oh, you're talking about a lot of female producers.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. A lot of them went off and chose different career paths later.
It takes a lot of grit, and it takes a willingness to be alone a lot.
Yeah.
I was always kind of a loner, like I was an only child.
Yeah.
So I have maybe more comfort with that than most, and a freakish obsession with cats, which
helps.
Yeah. Yeah, I can think of certain circumstantial reasons like that why it could be harder for women. There's one thing, maybe this would be a cool thing to end with, since this is probably getting a bit long. Do you know who Elizabeth Gilbert is?
No.
Okay, she's an author. I love this woman.
Oh, is she Eat, Pray, Love?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I've watched a bunch of her talks on YouTube, and she said this one thing that blew my doors off because it just so resonated. She said there's two types of people. There's jackhammers and there's hummingbirds. Have you heard this?
No.
Okay. So jackhammers are the type of people that they're like, they just grab hold of an idea and they just bore into it like a horse with blinders, like ga, 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 and they just go and go and go and go. And it's like this, it's crazy focus, right? And I think men tend to be a little bit more, it's going to sound like an insult. But
Jackhammery?
Well, yeah, okay. I was going to say single-minded, but
yeah.
So, and it's sort of, producing is so difficult and complex that it sort of requires a lot of that.
I agree.
To master. However, hummingbirds don't do that. Hummingbirds sort of go over here, and then they go over there, and then they how did she put this? It was so beautiful. They sort of bring this into that, and they bring this into that, and they go around to a lot of different areas, but there's this cross-pollinating that happens because of it. And those areas where they go then become more rich and more diverse and more informed because they were there. And I think this, given how women naturally are, can be a huge gift that women can bring to this scene. Bringing our instincts, bringing our love, bringing, other art forms, whatever it is, into the musical conversation and letting it be a richer place. I mean, the drum and bass that I'm doing, it has a lot of trance elements, and people are going to hate it, some of them. And I'm completely okay with that, because it has a softness. And I'm like somebody who's like a adamant, passionate softie, which sounds like a weird oxymoron, but it's like strong love, strong tenderness. You know what I mean? It's like they're like the forces of darkness are screaming. They are so loud right now certainly in our political landscape, that forces of love need to be louder, as certainly as loud, if not louder.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's kind of where I'm coming from. So I really resonated with the hummingbird metaphor, and I think
it makes sense. I mean, women by nature are more social,
more curious, into more
and
different.
I think that beyond even just not the sexism of the divide, but I think men by nature are more likely to want to lock themselves in a room for 12 hours by themselves and not talk to anybody. And that's not a sexist statement. I think that is more of a statement of nature.
Perhaps.
I mean, it's cultural too, but women are grown to be more social than men are. Even if you want to look way back, we're taught to go out and hunt and kill.
Yes.
And you guys you build a community together, which is why you're also way smarter than we are. Because we don't have social skills like you do.
Well, and a lot of the social skills come from an emotional need for connection.
Right.
That is something that can be brought to your art.
Sure.
And, something that a man maybe won't bring to his art because it's not there for him. No. So, like I said, if it's not me, I don't even care. But it's just, this whole scene is just starving for women's contribution, women's voice, women's signature, sonic signature, however that sounds or looks,
right.
But I really hope that the women that come are brave enough to be authentic. And that's something that I try to do every day. It's hard, but you do your best. And the more you do it, you get better, you get more confident, not just in your own skills, but in being unabashedly you.
Right. I feel anyone should ultimately look for that.
Well, should maybe, but it's hard. It's scary.
Yeah.
Because then there's the whole am I going to get accept? Are they going to accept me? They're going to like me, criticize, whatever.
Well, the beauty is when you get to the point where it's, well, fuck them.
I don't know if people. I mean, I know a lot of people say that. I don't know how many really mean it, because all of us, I mean, the most precious human currency is admiration and approval. We're just wired to need that. So it takes one hell of an evolved person to be able to put themselves out there and say they don't care, like for real, don't care.
I think you get to that point if you've just faced rejection long enough that you've got nothing left to lose at that point.
I faced a lot of rejection, and I don't care enough that I'm willing to do it and go be me. But, you know, when I see someone saying something negative, yeah, I mean, depending on what it is, if it's something stupid, I don't give a shit. But
yeah, but you mean like YouTube comments? And,
yeah, anything.
Yeah, but that's the cesspool of the internet. You can't take any of that seriously, via whether it's praise or insults. Like it's people behind a screen. There is no actual repercussions for the things they say.
I know.
You can't ever look at it.
I know what people do, and I do, and it's like it's just natural. It's normal. You know, most of the time you're immune to it, but sometimes you're not. You know?
I just think it's important to remember the context of it.
Sure. Yeah, was it Brene Brown said something great. She was talking about how she would struggle with this, and she finally got to a place where she said something like, anybody who's going to criticize me, if you're not putting your voice and your art out there for other people to criticize, then you don't get to have a voice about me or something. I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like that. It was really like, oof.
Yeah.
And she's right, you know, it's like, it's so easy to, like you said, sit behind a screen and barf your, you know, vile words into the world. But, you know, putting yourself out there is freaking brave. And if nobody who doesn't do that gets to comment, I mean, obviously they can, but I mean.
Then don't listen.
Yeah. Well, I learned after the Live Forever video came out to, check YouTube comments as infrequently as I can.
Did they rip you apart?
Completely.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they can, with no repercussions, like you said, and because I don't look like some Ultra Records EDM model girl. I have a very particular look, and it's not for everyone. And yeah, that's what I got torn apart over. It wasn't the singing, it wasn't the song, it was that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Classy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, very. You know, as a woman, that shit is hard to hear. That's
of course it is.
Really hard to hear, because that's like some of your biggest vulnerabilities. You know,
right.
Like what girl doesn't want to be pretty? You know.
Yeah.
But you know, you get over it, and I am who I am, and it's not for everybody, and I don't care. It's like, I love me, God loves me, and I am who I am.